Hi, and welcome to the second Common Errors video. This one is strictly for animation. So again, not everybody needs to watch this if you're not doing animation, but if you are training to be a code class mentor or if you're training to teach day 6 of code class, you really should be watching this just to know the different errors that are out there with animation. Okay, so the first error that's out there is the issue with the draw equals function. So there are a lot of issues with this just because it's kind of a weird thing. Um, but basically when you say draw equals function, it autocorrects to, hold on. It autocorrects to this special thing. So, like for example here, we have our draw equals function, but it says we're missing a semicolon. So if we show me where, we can add a semicolon right there. Because draw equals function does have some complicated syntax to it, if a kid has an issue with it, like for example, let's just say that this is going on, right? So we don't really know what's happening here. Maybe if you're very familiar with it, you know that there would be an equals here and that would fix it. But most of the time, my bet for you, or what I think you should do, is just to delete it. So let's say you have this going on, just delete it and do it again. Draw equals function, right? Now let's say that the kid had like some stuff inside. Rect 30, 30, 30, 30. Right? We already have a rect and we already have like an x plus plus, even though there's no x yet. It's fine. Define var x. Okay. So you don't want to delete this whole thing, right? Let's say that this kid is having some issues. We don't have a semicolon. So you don't really know what's happening. So you just want to delete this top portion. And just retype draw equals function. I'm just going to also delete this bottom portion, and I'm just going to copy and paste the code into there, right? Super easy, and that way you're saving all of your issues, you're not having those errors anymore, but you're still making sure that you can go through the easiest amount of thing as possible, and you're showing the kid how to, in the future, save their own errors. Okay, so I'm just going to comment this out again. Actually, I'm just going to do this. Okay, the second main error is forgetting to put a background inside of your function. So let me just quickly show you what that looks like. So right now, our program looks great, right? We have our background. Awesome. Okay, now I'm just going to add a var here, var x equals 0. I'm going to change this to x, and I'm going to do x plus plus. And you should know what all of this is if you watch the animation video. Okay. Now, see how there's this long black streak here? I briefly covered this in the video, but basically what's happening is every time it's reprinting, the background is not reprinting, because the only thing that reprints is anything inside of the function. So because the background is not reprinting, we're having this black streak left every time the program is rerunning. So if your kid is having this issue, all they need to do is Control X that and Control V it back into the function, and then you won't have that issue anymore, because every time the function runs now, the background will be reprinting along with the other things. Okay, so that's issues with forgetting to put background inside of the function. And again, that is super, super important when it comes to animation. Okay, the third main issue is issues with variable naming and not using variables. So let me show you what I mean by this. So I'm just going to comment this out first. Okay. So I'm just going to restart this function. See, our rectangle is not moving. A lot of the times kids will ask, why isn't my rectangle moving? I have my variable, I increment my variable, but my rectangle isn't moving. This is because they most likely forgot to put the variable inside of the rectangle. So now if we restart this, now keep in mind we don't have a background in here, so I'm going to add a background. But now if I restart it, it works. Right? Okay, so now our second issue that sometimes comes up is that kids will forget what variables they used. Even though they're right up here, they just forget. So like for example, a kid might add a random y variable and then ask, why isn't this working? Well, you just need to tell them if you change it to the variable you used, it's going to end up working. So pretty simple. Okay, and then the last error that we have is getting confused with all the different types of incrementation. And this is a super common thing, so don't worry if your kids get confused, because this is super confusing even to older people. So I'm just going to set my var x equal to 0. Okay. So let's just go over all the different types of incrementations. So you have the x plus plus, right? What x plus plus does is it says x increments always by 1. Always. So if it's x plus plus, it's just going to increment it by 1 every single time. Now, if you have the x plus equals, you can make this whatever you want. You can make this x plus equals 4, 5, 1. Right, so let's say it's 4. Oh, let me add a semicolon. Okay, right here, x increments always by the number you give it. Okay? And now, similarly, you have x equals x plus 4, which is sometimes the most logical for kids to understand just because it's a simple x equals whatever x was plus 4. But usually they're not going to fully understand this anyway yet. So here, x increments always by the number you give it. So make sure that you understand the difference between those. Make sure that you have one that you like to tell your kids. I always like to tell my kids x plus plus. It's easy, kind of has a ring to it. That's just the easiest thing for them. If they want to make it go slower, usually I will have them try the x equals x plus 4 just because I think that's the next easiest to understand. But those are some of the main issues that arise with the animation. And so if you know those, you'll mostly be good in animation. It's a hard thing to teach because kids can't fully grasp it when they're that young. A lot of kids can, at least. So if you know a lot of the errors, you can at least help them through a lot of things. And then it's just more fun for them to get a feel for animation. Thanks for listening.